So, all right, everybody, thanks for joining us today. My name is Hunter Willis, and we have Melanie Edwards on the line with us. She is currently the head of FinOps at the organization she's at. She's got over a decade of experience working both on the financial and the technology side of cloud and IT technology. So, Melanie, tell us a little bit about yourself. Welcome to the FinOps Fridays podcast, and thanks for being here. Really appreciate you taking the time to do this today.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Hunter. I appreciate you asking me to do this. I always want to give a voice where I can. So I have, like Hunter said, over 10 years experience between finance for IT departments and then moving into FinOps. Probably about 5 or so years now in the FinOps land. So I've worked at a lot of major organizations, and it's gave me a breadth of experience that I'm looking forward to be able to share with you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing about it too. A lot of different personalities that you've worked with. We're going to be talking today about kind of overcoming the challenge of mindset and kind of change management approaches to implementing FinOps in organizations. Before we dive into the conversation though, and I get you going with some more questions, let's do these rapid fire questions really quick and learn a little
Sure,
bit about more about you on the personal side here, Melanie. Thanks for doing this.
sure, no problem.
All right, so we're going to start with Mac or PC.
I'm gonna go with PC.
All right, Android or Apple?
I'm gonna go with Droid.
Okay, all right. I know where we're leaning. Chat or email?
I'm gonna go with chat.
Okay, and Slack or Teams?
So everyone's gonna hate me for this, but I'm gonna go with Teams.
Online or in-person meetings? That's awesome.
Online.
All right, and morning person or night owl?
Night owl.
Okay, coffee or tea?
Uh, Depends on which day it is. I do both
Fair
equally.
enough. Yeah, no, I know how that goes. Spring or fall?
Fall, definitely.
Okay, cake or pie?
Ooh, depends on which flavors.
Oh man, that's a really great answer to that. It
Yeah.
depends is like the best answer to anything, right? Cake. Okay, we said cake or pie. Pancakes or waffles is the other one, right?
Yeah, that's
That's
another depends on how it's
another
cooked.
toughie. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. Man, I
Yeah.
love my waffles like nice and sugary and crispy, Oh,
Oh
so
yeah,
good.
crispy on the outside and soft and warm on the.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All right, dogs or cats? Dogs or cats?
I'm gonna go with dogs. Allergic to cats.
Yep, that'll do it. On the beach, do you go to the mountains or do you take a tour in like a town somewhere or historic place if you go on vacation?
Historical
Oh
tourist.
yeah, tour.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I like it. I like it. And then are you more introverted or extroverted, would you say?
I'm definitely introverted.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Well, on that note, definitely thanks for doing this then.
Yes.
That's great. Okay, so we were talking, Melanie, about your experience and the things that you've been through in implementing FinOps as well as from working in this world for so long. Um, Talk to me about the difficulties in implementing FinOps from the different organizations that you've worked with and what that's like. Can you just kind of highlight some of the biggest challenges and then we'll just kind of dive deeper into it, right?
Yeah, so I would say initially when I was introduced to FinOps and brought it at a Fortune 4 company, it was the no one heard of it, right? No one heard of FinOps, and I pretty much had to do a bottom-up approach, which is very difficult in a large organization. I existed, created a lot of things, and people were still like, "What's FinOps?" So I would say that one was more challenging than in my current situation where they brought me in because they know they needed FinOps, right? So that was like leadership knew this is what we needed. And it was a lot different conversation, but I will say the cultural change that's needed, um, that comes along with FinOps is a lot harder to do. I mean, even if you get leadership buy-in, it's these different departments have to change when we talk about procurement, finance, engineering. They have to change their mindsets, but trying to teach what they need to change to is, I think, a understated role of a FinOps person. I don't really hear much about that, but how do you tell a finance person how to treat cloud if you don't know finance?
Well, and that's it. And that's kind of
Yeah,
that role that you're inventing with FinOps and whatever the organizational culture is, because you have to, we talk about it like, okay, you look at the FinOps framework and there's a lot of great advice in there, but the reality is that the cultures of organizations are so different all over the place, and you're dealing with, especially in larger organizations, right? There's some pretty strong personalities there. Things have been
yeah.
set in certain ways for a long period of time. So you talked about your initial approach was like education and trying to inform people about the changes that would need to be made. How did you kind of pair that with buy-in, and what did that kind of look like as an informational campaign out to the people that you needed to work with?
Yeah, so I would say initially at the first organization I came in doing FinOps, I was hired to do a billing and chargeback process for cloud. So that's when I like kind of Googled, and I'm like, oh, there's a practice around this, and sort of just adopted it at that point. It was a green space. I came in and I'm like, it's FinOps for my immediate team. I advocated for us to all get certified, learn about what FinOps is. So my boss at the time, he could go and advocate for us as well, knowing what he was talking about. So I think that helped a lot. It's a lot at big organizations. It's very important to use the forms of communications that are out there so that people know you exist. It's perfectly fine to have a FinOps team and you can do all this work, but it's like I always say it's like FinOps as a service, right? Like we're very internal customer um service focused. So if people are coming to us, it's like if you have questions about what you're charged, or if you have this, or tags need to be changed, this is where you go. So, those lunch and learns, most organizations have communication avenues where they try to, at least have resources for the internal staff to go to. So I say that's very, very important to get your name out there, is to use those communication channels in your organization. And, you may not have everything in place, but just let people know that you're there when they have questions about cloud.
And just like on an ongoing basis, it sounds like, right? You didn't just like throw out some communication via different channels and sit back and kick your feet up. It's like almost a campaign as you're getting people to understand what's going on and kind of pushing out that messaging, but also highlighting yourself as a resource.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've set up things like office hours and just all kind of things, like you said, to have ongoing support and communication.
So office hours, kind of like central places where information can be found, you said before, right? Along with that communication. What were some of the steps to get that buy-in? You mentioned, so like you started out with communication kind of at a grassroots level, then you're getting kind
Mhm.
of buy-in from your boss at the time. What did that look like? And were they able to pull other stakeholders into those communications, right?
I'm gonna say at my first organization, it kind of like my boss communicated to his boss and then kind of stopped there as far as that we existed. I wouldn't say that was 100% successful in educating the organization on FinOps. Like I said, the bottom up approach is very hard, a hard thing to achieve. So it's just little wins here and there. But unless you're gonna get the top level down, um, you're just fighting a uphill battle. So I can candidly say that it it wasn't where I, I would have liked it to be. And I never got the buy-in that I would like from like the top executives to know that we existed.
Sure. And that was, so this is, again, this is your first FinOps experience. So what
Yeah.
are some of those like looking back on that, what would be maybe the top 3 lessons learned from that that you think you should have done or could have done better to make that work more holistically and as a more complete approach?
Um,
'Cause I'm sure that you've thought about that a whole lot, right?
yeah,
And this
no,
is really good. Thank you so much for like I'm really happy that you're being this kind of it's almost vulnerable with this, right? Because usually people want to
yeah.
just be like, no, we did it was awesome, we nailed it, everything was perfect.
Yeah, I would say that I've moved on with that part of my life now. But say that the communication piece that I say, that's probably a learned that I feel like if I was communicating to the entire organization as much as possible, that maybe I would have got more traction from other leaders or, just more people in the organization than my immediate area. Because, it's like the people that the FinOps people deal with are normally like finance, procurement, and I wouldn't say that it is executive level
Right.
um that we deal with on a day-to-day. So everyone at your level can understand your value, but when these decks go out and you're presenting all this stuff, the executives don't really know where it came from. So I would say um that I appreciate FinOps people being at the table in those executive meetings to be able to demonstrate, what this stuff is. Like, I don't know how many times I've told even procurement, they're like, well, can you give us like standardized pricing? And I'm like, do you want your computer to blow up?
Right.
Like, like, and it just goes to show you that how many people just don't know. It's just a whole cloud is a whole world that
The black
people are just,
box.
yeah, just not privy to. And I would say being patient and educating. I've had times where I felt like in my primary role, I'm also a consultant to other areas just because we know,
Yeah.
it's like, what to do with the finances, how procurement should be handled, what engineers should be looking at. So you become kind of like a cloud SME.
Right.
And so it's not only you putting processes in place, but also educating the other departments.
What what was the culture like? How was culture different at other organizations that you have gone into versus having it to be this like grassroots push from the bottom, trying to make it happen and not really getting 100% buy-in from like leadership in that executive level versus the other experiences you've had and some of the other challenges that you saw there?
Yeah, I would say it's a good sign when people are looking for a FinOps consultant because they kind of know
They
that they need
understand.
you.
We're bleeding. Stop the bleeding.
Yeah, they know you're needed, so it's definitely a different dynamic. And you don't have to do that initial push of this is my value and this is, constantly prove your value to know why you should be there. Um, so I would say in the different organizations, small, big, I mean, the pain points are, pretty much the same. So it's just really, the cultural differences. I mean, the bigger organizations that have been around for ages, when you talk about dealing with a department like finance, where they've been there forever, it's always going to be a struggle
Sure.
as a whether you're a consultant or you're a FTE, it's always going to be there. So I just say as a FinOps person, you learn to be adaptable and just meet the organization where they are. I'm always trying to get as much information I can and the metadata to be able to build out, like you said, as much as possible, right? So in the beginning, it might just be, can we charge back the right department that's utilizing these resources? But then you want to tell a whole story. You want to find out how efficient you are. You want to know the ROI or ROIs for your applications. I mean, there's just so much more that you can do, but it all comes from having good metadata. So primarily when I go into an organization, that's my focus. I mean, there's so many people. You can do Power BI, Tableau, you can do so many visualization tools, but if your data isn't there, you can't make magic. And I would say that's probably been the biggest challenge with being in FinOps, is because people are expecting you to make magic.
Yeah.
It's
No,
like
this is a really great conversation though, because so many organizations and people that I've talked to are struggling to get there. And
yeah.
so your advice to them is to start with the metadata and get down to like a more granular level of allocation beyond just like, hey, the organization, but down to individual like products and processes and like projects.
Yeah, it depends on the organization and what their structure is, what they're using the cloud for. So I'm trying to be more generic on what that is, but whatever is important to your organization, whether you're just using cloud for your internal services or whether you're in user facing products, whatever it is, and it's important, you want to be able to capture that to show, especially if you're doing end user products, because you want to show a ROI on that to find out if it's even worth you having the
And
application.
and what metrics have you used to kind of determine that?
um well, I'm not there yet, so
Okay. What metrics would you like to use to determine that?
so I mean, essentially you would have to connect with the finance department, right, to be able to make sure that you can capture the revenue being generated by that product, and that your tagging is up to date to show that the application, how much that the expenses are in cloud for the application. So you have those two, then you have your metric. So I mean, it sounds simple. Everything sounds simple, but getting there is, it's always a struggle. And I feel like where I'm at is that innovative thinking for reporting. What else can we show? Like application ROI, telling the complete story when you're talking about cost optimization or cost savings or cost avoidance. People have so many names for it, but it's like, what do you want to show? A lot of people go to leadership and they're like, oh, we saved you 500,000, and they're like, okay, but our bill's the same month over month. So is this magic numbers or what? And I think you kind of lose a little bit of credibility because you can't show it. And I want to spend time being able to show it. Like, yes, we reduced this, but we have this many new workloads, or we are able to onboard a new application and for the same cost, So I just been trying to think about those type of things of, like you said, when you're communicating and you're trying to explain the value of FinOps, I mean, everything's backed up by the information and the data. And if you can't provide that, it's like hearsay. It's like, well, she said she could do this, but I don't see it. So you got to
So
be able to show it.
absolutely. All right. Well, Melanie, thank you so much again for joining us today and for the time. Really
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing your experiences and being a little vulnerable and throwing it
No.
out there today. I really appreciate that. This has been a
Yeah, no
really, really
problem.
solid conversation. I know that this is going to strike true with so many people that are running
Yeah.
into different obstacles right now, because it is intimidating sometimes when you hear people on a podcast or see a presentation about like, yeah, we did it, we accomplished it, and everything's perfect, and that's how it comes across sometimes. So thank you so much
Yeah,
for
no
walking us
worries.
through it today. Is there anything else you want to add before we kind of sign off and end the conversation today?
Um, the only thing I like to add is that, if people feel like they have more questions, that they can certainly reach out. Um, I am an ambassador for the FinOps organization too. So I try to, help where I can. I know that was a big thing when I got started, was just looking for people to be able to like soundboard things off of. So I try to be that for other people.
So check out finops.org for more information, to reach out to the community, for other community resources there. Melanie, thank
Yeah.
you so much, you too, for supporting the organization and helping out where you can. And again, for joining us today. It's been really great. I always enjoy talking to you, and it's good to chat with you again.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you.